This video is going to be about multiplying and dividing fractions. So to start with, we're going to do some multiplication. So we're going to do a pretty simple one to start with. Say 1/3 times 2 over 5. So multiplying fractions is pretty straightforward. So all you're going to do is just going to multiply across. So say 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 5 is going to be 15. And then that's just our answer for that one. It's just 2/15. So let's try another one. We'll say 7 over 2 times 2 over 3. So again, we multiply straight across. So I think the thing that people get caught up on when they're doing multiplication and addition and subtraction with fractions is the fact that if you're doing addition and subtraction, you have to find a common denominator. But when you're doing multiplying, you just multiply straight across, so you don't have to worry about getting a common denominator. So multiplying is a lot easier than addition is. So on this one, we're just going to multiply across. So here we'll say 14, we'll say 6, and we can actually reduce this number right here. So we'll talk about reducing real quick. What I mean by reducing is that I can pull out a number of both of them. In this case, it's going to be a really easy number. We can pull a 2 out of our 6 and our 14. So we think about what is 2 times what equals 14. Of course, it'll be 7. 2 times what will be 6. It'll be 3. There's nothing in common with 7 and 3 except for, of course, 1, but that doesn't matter. So we just leave it as 7/3. Let's try one with a negative number. We'll say 5 over 7 times negative 3 over 4. Okay, with a negative, it doesn't matter if you apply it to the top or the bottom or the numerator or the denominator, because that negative just goes, it's a negative fraction. It's not necessarily negative 3 over positive 4 or positive 3 over negative 4. It's just a negative 3/4. So what that means, we're just going to ignore it. We're just going to write the negative out here to the front. You can write it with a 3, you can write it with a 4. I'm just going to write it with the front. So we say 5 times 3 is, of course, 15. 7 times 4 is 28. And that will be our final answer for that one. Okay, so now we're going to try one that does that's division. And you're going to see how similar those are. So let's, first off, we're going to write it two different ways. So we're going to write it first like this. Or it can be written as 3/2 over 4/5. So these two are equal. They mean the exact same thing. So all you do when you're using division is you keep, change, flip. So what I mean by that is I'm going to keep my first part. I'm going to change from division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip this last part. So I'm going to make that a 5 over 4. So now I'm just going to multiply straight across, because now I'm just multiplying my fraction. So I say 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 4 is 8. So I'll just leave it like that. So let's try another one of these where we can actually do some reduction before we start the problem. Alright, so let's try 7 over 3 divided by 1 over 6. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to keep, change, and flip. So you can go ahead and multiply straight across if you want to, but if these numbers that are diagonal with each other, if you can reduce those, then it's going to make the problem a lot easier if you go ahead and reduce them, because you're going to be multiplying a smaller number, of course, with the reduction. So what we would say here is we'd say we know that we can take that 3 and make it a 1 and make that a 2. And to go back and check ourselves, we say 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So we pulled out a 3 from both of them. So it's always got to be the same number, of course. So now we say 7 times 2, which is a lot easier, is 14. 1 times 1 is 1. So it's 14 over 1, or you can just write it as 14. It's important to realize you can write it as 14, because in this next example, what we're going to do is we are going to multiply a whole number, and I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll do it with a negative number as well. So whenever we're multiplying the whole number, let's say we'll just do something pretty simple. Say 1/3 times a -7. Okay, so all you do, and this is kind of similar to what you do in addition, is we want to make them both fractions. So all we got to do is we got to add a 1 over this. So now we can just multiply straight across. So now we say 1 times -7 is -7. Then 3 times 1 is 3. So your answer is -7/3. Works pretty much the same way. Let's look at our fraction, a division problem with this. So let's say if we had 11/3 over 4. A little bit better way to write it is if we wrote it like this, so you can tell that the fraction is actually this part on the top. So we got 11/3 over 4. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add our over 1 here. So now you see it's a fraction, so now you keep, change, and flip. You don't have to add this 1 right here. It's an understood 1 as long as you know that you flip it to make it this 1/4. So now all we got to do is just multiply straight across. So we say 11/12, and that would be our final answer for that. So fractions, doing a multiplication is really simple. You're just multiplying straight across. Division, you just got to remember to keep, change, and flip.